All right. Well, we always say this is, and I realized, James, after I usually say, we have a great guest today. And James says, do you say, or no, the guest said, do you say that every episode?
Yeah.
And we're like, well, do you have to? But I realized, go listen to all your favorite podcasts. They all say it.
Oh.
But we do, in fact, have an awesome guest, long time coming, Ryan Steward from RJS Construction, founder and president.
Yeah.
Yeah? No, it's great to have you. Yeah, we have been chatting for a little while.
Yeah, for a bit, yeah.
And now we're here.
Different events.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we see everyone around town. This is often how,
Where'd you guys meet?
Well, I mean, local construction
Which event was
associations.
it? You guys first sort of shook hands and hey.
First time? Must have been through a VRCA thing or something.
Maybe the U40 golf tournament.
Maybe
I think
U40
Ryan Lang.
Yeah.
I think introed us, and then yeah.
I thought it was the International Facial Hair Cultivation Fest. Is that where it was?
He's got a beautiful mustache.
That's pretty Tom Selleck there. That's pretty
very
good.
nice.
Do you have a red Ferrari 308 GTS?
No.
Okay.
No, that would be sweet though.
So place in Hawaii, helicopter friend? No.
So this isn't the Ryan Steward look. That's not the regular.
No, I've been pretty clean shaven for a long time. I did a beard once.
Yeah.
The wife didn't like that, so kind of got rid of that. But I did Movember this year for the first time, and
never stopped.
And then kind of everyone was like, "Hey, it looks pretty good on you," and especially my wife liked it, and just it's kind of stuck. So, and my dad's had one forever, as long as I can remember. So
legacy, I got it.
Yeah.
Is he the
so
J?
Just kept it.
Is he the J in your name?
No.
What is the J?
Jonathan. Which I can't even. Actually, it was
so
a
that's the
conversation just last
RJS.
weekend, and
Got it.
I don't even know where that came from. So,
cool.
My mom liked the name or something.
Oh man. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about just the background of yourself, even Ryan, and how you got to where you are in the construction industry, and then kind of the genesis of the RJS Construction story.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always liked building anything, which probably started the construction side of things, right? Like working with your hands, seeing something come to fruition, and like the accomplishment of being able to physically see something. Back to building forts when I was probably 10 years old in the backyard, and built a pretty epic fort with my good high school friend in grade 8 that was suspended over a creek, and
did it have plumbing?
A drawbridge, and
did you have PPE on? You had a hazard assessment?
Definitely not.
No.
Okay. Using saws untrained, and
so the don't do this story.
Yeah,
got it.
But hey, it was a lot of fun, and I think that's kind of where it started. And Lego, I see you guys got the Lego here.
Yeah.
I've always been into Lego, and now that I have my own kids, we build Lego quite a bit. It's become a little bit of a
love it.
How old are your kids?
10 and 12.
Oh, that's Lego territory. Right there.
Lego territory. Yeah.
That's getting into epic Lego build territory.
Yeah, that's getting into expensive Lego.
Expensive Lego, complicated, nice stuff.
Yeah, they definitely wouldn't have it if I wasn't into it. But yeah, I usually get all the new sets right away. And
what's your favorite one you've been doing?
We just finished the Republic gunship, the big Star Wars one.
Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh wow,
and it was a pretty cool build.
Nice.
Even though I read the dimensions, it's a little bigger than I thought built.
Really?
So.
That's cool.
That's like as big as the logo here?
Oh yeah, for sure. As big
really?
as the logo, and it probably weighs 20, 25 pounds.
Ooh. Holy smokes.
It's not something you pick up. And
is that like
$600?
$600?
I think it's close to 500 now. I think
right.
It is.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So we like to do the big builds and build them all. Small ones too. So.
Oh, that's really cool. Have you built a tree fort with them?
Forts, but not a tree fort. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Right.
We still live in the like a subdivision.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of extra trees to build a fort into. So.
Yeah, they take those down.
Yeah.
Keep going though. We cut you off there with the Lego stuff.
Yeah.
So I think kind of started all there. I was into tech for a long time, like computers and technology as it came pretty predominant in the 90s, and I kind of thought I would do something with that and business, and went to university for that, and I absolutely hated it in university. Hated being in university. So kind of dropped out of university and took a job as an electrician just because it was available with a friend, and finished my apprenticeship, and kind of just went from there and got more into management with electrical. And then I met some general contractors and kind of switched over to them. And I love the general contracting side because it was more the building, like the building stuff that I kind of really loved even as a kid. and just kept running with that and got into management with all of that. And eventually just started my own company, which I always wanted to do. I think I started it a little quicker than I wanted. My wife was 6 months pregnant, and we just finished the reno on our
pregnant story.
first house. So.
Always pushes everybody.
I feel like that's the common theme.
It is.
I wonder if there's like, I mean, I think there's always like a crisis in the mind when first kid's coming around or whatever, and you just assess life, I guess.
I think so.
But we've had a lot of people say that they're like, yeah, I was crazy. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, we founded the company when my wife was X amount of months pregnant. It's common, very common.
Yeah.
Is it? I didn't even know that.
It is.
It's crazy.
I guess
It's
your mind frame switches from kind of being a kid to yourself. Okay, now I'm an adult. I'm going to have a kid.
Yeah, the providing thing.
Yeah, maybe it's subconscious.
Yeah.
I thought my wife would be like, what are you talking about? Like, we just spent all this money on this reno, and you need to work and get a paycheck. But she's like, no, let's go for it.
So what positions were you holding in the GC that you worked at?
So I started as a foreman and kind of worked myself up to a superintendent.
Okay.
I did want to stay on longer and get into project management.
Yeah. So field then, mostly in the field then.
Mostly in the field, yeah. The actual building side of it, managing the sites. I mean, we were managing pretty big sites. The ones we were doing, like, I can't remember the last. It was like a 3-acre site. I can't remember how many units was in there. Mixed use, residential, commercial.
Right.
Nice. That was the last project I worked on. With it was Town Line Construction that I worked for quite a number of years.
How long ago was that?
What year would that have been? 2011. I left them.
Oh, you left them. Okay.
Did you build anything in Cloverdale and Clayton Heights?
I built the Compass apartment buildings. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Crazy.
Yeah, my brother, that was his first townhouse in Compass.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's right down the street from me. I'm up from another Town Line development.
It was still pretty rural there when we started that one.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Town Line's been a customer of SiteMax for a number of years.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
Good company.
Yeah, they're a great company. I learned great stuff, some great mentors over there for the years. So still talk to a bunch of them.
Did you work with Greg Girk at all?
I worked with Greg Girk.
Yeah, he's
solid
fantastic.
dude. Shout out, Greg.
Yeah, shout out. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Yeah.
There you go. Awesome. Okay, cool. So it was 10 years or 12 years ago then that you founded the company?
12 years ago.
12 years ago, oldest son. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And how many employees now do you have? How big is the company? Just kind of to give it.
We have 18 employees now.
Okay.
And we, being a GC, they're project managers and coordinators in the office, and then all of our superintendents in the field.
Right.
We don't do much self-performance. I know some GCs do, but we did that before, and I kind of just sub out as much as I can and then hire temporarily when we need it.
Right.
Find it a little bit easier to manage,
Yeah.
especially in today's labor market.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, and that's something that we'll get into, I think, a little bit later on is early days, though. What was, other than having first kid on the way, what was like one of the biggest challenges, just even getting it off the ground? Like you had great subcontracting experience, so you kind of knew how the trades all come together in that sense. You had which I think is probably the most important person on a job, is superintendent, right? You had super foreman experience, which is really good. But then getting the business off the ground, what were some early challenges that stood out to you?
The biggest one, and I've told a lot of people this, is I kind of decided to leave Town Line. I gave them a long notice, so it was good for them and good for me to get my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
But I kind of went to the bank a little too late and thought, I'm just going to start a business and go get a business loan and do all this. And the bank was like, well, yeah, but you have no experience with this, and you're young. You have no backing for it. And we had already spent quite a bit of money on our renovation that we did on our house. And I started with very little spare money to run a general contracting business, which in general contracting world, you need to spend a whole bunch of money before you get any back.
Yeah.
That was a big challenge. I think it slowed growth quite a bit in the beginning. And I don't know why I never went to any friends or family and tried to borrow money. That I kind of wanted to do it on my own. Maybe a fear of, something going sideways with that, and then, owing people money and whatnot. I wanted to just kind of do it. So that was the big challenge. Money was pretty tight in the beginning there. And then, as we all know, in GC world, there are some slow payments, and then there's the odd no payment.
So question. So what if you were mentoring somebody and they said, look, I'm starting a general contracting firm, what dollar amount would you say you need to have this either this amount of cash or this amount of credit to start this? What would the number be?
I think it depends on what you're starting with.
What you had.
With residential, I started probably with $15,000, which didn't go very far.
Right.
I mean, if you could get somewhere in the range of 75 to 100,000 of some capital to be able to purchase things and pay for things and get going,
Right.
Yeah.
I think unless you're going to start, guns a-blazing and you got some big projects under your belt right away, that's probably a pretty safe number.
Right.
And maybe making a plan ahead of time would be a big one.
So did you start
plan,
with a project right away?
I had a couple small projects.
Okay,
yeah.
so you already had deposits and all that kind of stuff happening, draws and all that kind of stuff.
I was not very business. I knew construction. Like I wasn't worried about construction at all.
Yeah,
right.
But the business knowledge was a little lacking, and I didn't have those proper plans in place when I kind of got rolling. Setting up accounts on the fly and kind of as you went. So I think setting up a little bit of a plan ahead of time would definitely be a massive bonus, because once you're working, especially when you're starting out,
it's managing money.
You're just working. You don't have time to get organized. So
yeah,
it's funny though, like the ambition far outweighs all the other risks or
necessities.
rewards or anything, necessities. Yeah, just getting it going.
And I don't think don't make a 100% plan, because that just doesn't exist.
That's what the money's for.
If you're 60, 70, 80% of a plan, get rolling with it. Because like you say, the ambition, and it's going to change and you're going to learn things as you go. But a little bit helps.
Was entrepreneurship in the family, or had you done any like small ventures prior?
Yeah, entrepreneurship's big time in my family. I think most of my family, aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, everybody is some sort of their own boss.
Yeah.
As far back as my grandparents. So it was always very much like something I wanted to do. I think that freedom and doing your own thing was very important. I talked about it with still to this day some of my good long-term friends, and we talked about it back in high school about running our own businesses, and they all do actually now too. So it was very much there.
It's kind of cool when you see, because you get a sense of that from people. Like James was like serial entrepreneur, like starting all sorts of different things in high school even, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you hear, like you said, your high school buddies, and they start saying certain things, and it is interesting how much of that like does actually play out, even if it's not in like their 20s or whatever. Eventually it does start to play out. You're like, that makes sense that person is where they are or whatever.
I did the same. My first little business venture was in high school. Well, I guess slightly elementary. I used to mow lawns in the neighborhood.
Hey, me too.
Yeah.
For money.
Yeah. I got paid in jars of coins.
I probably did too.
No, jars like mason jar. I was like, thanks.
Here's the quarters and the dimes.
And roll them and take them in.
Quarters would have been a luxury.
Yeah.
We're talking pennies, nickels, dimes.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
I was mowing lawns, and then I kind of started a little bit, I think, more of a business in high school with a friend of mine. He got his license, and my dad was a realtor, and my dad said to me once, there's a lack of these sign installation guys, right? You put up the for sale sign.
Yeah.
And they're always busy, and they're too late when you put a for sale sign up. Realtors want it up the day the listing is up, right? So we kind of started a little business just working for my dad and realtors he knew and stuff. And it actually got pretty busy pretty quickly. A lot of the realtors weren't paying us though, and we weren't proper business savvy people, so we ended up doing all this work. I mean, some were great, but some weren't. And you're chasing money in high school, and you're like, So we kind of let that go.
Yeah, when the house sells, I'll pay you. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of it was like, I'll pay you later. And
if you had just put the sign a little bit more straight, you might have had your money by now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That kind of
I think the icing on the cake that made us kind of shut it down was a few of the realtors, they'd sell the house quickly, and then the sign would come down. Well, like we owned the posts and everything, right? I wanted to build nice, clean, painted ones.
What do you call that? Like it's a 2 pieces to treated cedar and the
2 pieces. Yeah, we used to do them out of 4x4s and then notch them.
What's that called again? It's a carriage or something. A carriage, and then the 2 hanging things it would basically swing underneath.
Yeah, it was just a signpost. Maybe it has an official name.
It does have a name.
Does it have?
It must name? in the
it does.
World.
Yeah, because they went out of vogue for a while and then they came back again.
Yeah, now you see them.
Now that's
everywhere.
That's the deal. Yeah.
What do they go to? Like a lawn sign or like a little stick in or online or like?
I think they were like the cheap plastic,
Just
like
cheap
push-in ones.
No,
Yeah.
they were actually the frames that the 2 pieces of Coroplast would just slide in the top.
That's right. Yeah.
They were just kind of U-shaped things.
Yeah, and these ones get higher and a little more.
And they look a little bit more chic.
Professional. Yeah.
Professional, yeah. Strong. Like the house isn't going to fall down.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm a professional realtor type.
Yeah. It's all about that.
Yeah.
All right. Back to today.
So we talk about the early days, getting things off. Obviously, you're learning a lot, and you can look back, and I'm sure ultimately, in terms of where you are today, I mean, it's all part of the story. It's all part of the journey and what you learned and it shaped the whole thing. Was there an inflection point at all, early days or even, well into the business, that was, okay, this thing is, beyond my wildest dreams what I could have imagined it was going to be, or this is starting to feel like this is really going to go somewhere. There's momentum here.
Yeah, I think there was 2 big points. A few years in, as most young business owners, they do everything, right? Like they wear a ton of different hats and had a bunch of employees. And I was working a lot, out in the field during the day and work in the office at nighttime. We did have a small office at this point. I had 1 employee in the office. But I was still out of the office most of the time.
Yeah.
And I was bidding a job, and I was bidding it late. It was like I went home, I think, because kids were here now, both kids. And I went back to the office late, and I'm bidding a job at like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm exhausted, and I got this bid out the door really fast, and then I didn't hear about it for months. And then we got the job, and we're doing the job, and then I realized I missed some big items on my estimate because, wasn't paying attention properly on it. And I'm like, it all worked out in the end. I didn't take too much of a shot in the chin, but it was a big wake-up call that, okay, I got to make some changes here, and I got to stop wearing so many hats and hire some employees. Like, we're growing. Like, I can't do everything.
So how do you deal with that when you get to that realization, oh, okay, I missed something? I mean, you go back to your client and you say, okay, I need you to help me with something. Like, do you go hat in hand, or do you come at this like, hey, I can't get this done, or, admitting the mistake, or how did you handle that?
I've always been like, if I make a mistake, I won't go to a client. Like, if I've made a mistake, I need to learn from it and fix the problems. The one thing I did go to is a bunch of my trades that I was working with at the time, and they were most of them repeat trades. And I was like, hey, I messed up, and this is the situation. And so a lot of them worked with me and took a little bit off their bids and whatnot, because we've done fixed price for quite a number of years, and so your bid is your bid when you put it out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way we mitigated some of the damages, and then there was a few extras and whatnot. And then, we didn't make any money. We lost a little bit in the end, but at the initial, like when I reviewed it and we were going to start the job next week, I'm like, oh man, we're going to lose a lot of money on this job.
So when you say you obviously this is once everything is paid, you've paid your people, you've paid all your trades, and then what's left. So you're saying that you wrote a check after that?
Yeah. So we paid, basically our company had to pay to finish the project.
Which in any other industry, that is insane. You think about that. Like if you ever think, I know, but it's just, if you were to say to a contract software company, okay, that just builds software for people, and they go, actually, I wrote a check at the end of it. They would just never start.
Mm-hmm. I know. So
there's so many industries where that's just a non-starter of that kind of risk.
Yeah.
So it's just, so when you realize that you got to write a check for something, are you and your wife like, what the hell? Like,
I think at the point it had, it'd been a few years at that point, and we were overall making money every year.
Okay, so it's just on that particular one.
It was on that particular job, and same, like, you make mistakes along the way and you learn from them. That one was a bigger one, but I looked at it as more, I've messed up in making my company where it should be. So I took it more as a personal failure than anything else, and I didn't want to put that on to really anyone else to pay for it. Well, of course,
yeah, it makes sense.
And then you learn from it and you make changes, and hired a few people and fast-tracked the company, and then it went much better after that. Like you fast
Yeah.
forward the year after, and it's like we learned so much, and we got these new people, and now we're going even more and better. So,
Well, and I don't know if it's unique to construction or contracting businesses, but it is common that people will leave things out of bids, and they'll have to then go massage it out some way with a sub or going back to the owner hat in hand, like you were saying. But it is nice that you did this the one time. It wasn't necessarily catastrophic, like you'd have to close your doors, but also that you're able to learn enough to, I would think, continue to improve, tighten up, figure it out. Whereas there's a lot of, unfortunately, these mistakes sometimes keep happening and things don't get tightened up. And I mean, I don't know if it's a factor of like, you came out of the field and you started a business, right? And you said you didn't have a lot of business experience. Well, that's common in contracting.
big time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
They didn't go to, hey, I am,
Trades and contracting, big time.
yeah, right. And so like to learn that and combine it all together and press forward is like, yeah, it's rare, but it's the ones that are making it that have done those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think for sure. Or I mean, there's many trades or contracts out there that stay small because of that. Like
True.
They're kind of semi-micromanaged by the owner because the owner lacks the business knowledge.
Yep.
They have the construction knowledge, and they kind of stay at that small size, which is a little bit of a bonus too, because if everyone was just a big contractor, then where's all the smaller contractors to handle so many more of the other things?
Yeah, it's kind of like going back to the Lego example. If there's one thing of liking to build Lego, you go buy the box, all the pieces are there, there's instructions. Okay, make it. Okay, so that's the love of building. But then just imagine if you had to source all of those pieces. And there are some pieces that are more special than others. There's some you can find in any, you could use parts from a different job that you've had or a different Lego set. And you're like, oh, these are similar parts. But there's some you're like, I've never even seen this thing before. It's very unique to the job. So the business of sourcing all of the necessary components to have that outcome that's in the plans, that's where it falls off the rails for a lot of people because,
For sure.
yeah, they like the putting the pieces together, but it's getting the pieces at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting.
And pieces are one thing, but when it's human capital,
Yeah.
it makes it even more challenging.
People delivering those pieces. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did this lead to your first key hire then, or hat shedding at that point in time or around then?
Yeah, it was releasing it was releasing the field side of it. It's
Right.
like, hey, we're at a size now where I need to be in the office. Whether in the short term, I think it's a detriment to the company or not, it has to happen. And then, there's a very short period once I moved into the office full time where it's like, oh, I'm not fully busy all day long in the office because I was wearing so many different hats. But as soon as you can get in the office more, the company just, boom, grew to the next level very, very quickly.
How did you attract these first few hires? Like, what was the pitch in terms of, spend your time with us? It'll be well worth the time.
I think we're very much more structured in our hiring now, but
Yeah.
even back then, I think it was myself just being real. Like, this is who we are. This is what we do. Honesty has been a massive value of mine for forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's attracted a lot of really good people over the years. And being that we want to get bigger, but I never want to be like a big, gigantic construction company, which that appeals to some people and some people it doesn't. Some people like to work for a smaller, tight-knit company, and I think that's the people we have today in our company.
Does that ethos foster a kind of a culture of a very balanced, and you could say work-life balance, I suppose, lifestyle kind of a business?
For sure.
For you and your staff as well? So they kind of want what Daddy has? Do you know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's
Totally.
if they just want maybe just a little bit smaller version of what you have because you took all the risk.
Yeah, I think for sure. And I think you brought up work-life balance, and that is a big component to where we are now. And I think where I've kind of always moved it is I'm a big family guy. I have my young kids at home, and as much as I don't mind working hard, I don't want to spend all my time at the office either. I want to be home because with young kids, there's only a short period that they're young kids. They're adults way longer. And I had the same outlook with my employees. I wanted them to have that. We have another one of our values in the company is family first. And it sounds like, put work aside, but no, it more kind of meant that proper balance, like not working 60, 70 hours a week and weekends and nights, and making sure that everyone is going and doing their important things. Like if there's a piano recital or there's a sports thing, take the time off and encourage everyone to take the time off and go and do those things with their kids. Or even if their kids are older, or just taking time for yourself as well, or your significant other or other family members or friends. But work is endless if you want it to be, if you just want to do it.
Yeah.
But I guess there's no outside influence other than your own motivation and your own life goals that is influencing how much work you take on.
No.
And there's no investor saying, hey, I want X growth or return, and there's no industry saying anything. So I think that's the contrast with a lot of companies and the work-life balance is that some have this completely. I might be talking personally.
No, but it does.
Totally. But there is like almost untenable results people are expecting. But if you're the one setting those benchmarks, then you just go, okay, well, we're just gonna build what we want to build. Everyone's happy, work-life balance, and harmony.
Harmony. Yeah.
Well, we talk about it a fair bit. And a lot with our guests and even customers, because there's something unique about construction. You said it, that, there's always work if you want it, right? Not like endless amounts of projects, but there's endless amounts of, I'm going to stay up till 10 o'clock tonight and I'm going to figure out a new process to do this, or I'm going to catch up on those receipts, or whatever it is, right? You can always do that. But there's something unique about construction, is that it is an attractive, whenever we say like lifestyle, and maybe it is the personal thing of coming from like tech, where it's like, they never want to hear the word lifestyle business, but then you look at construction or other, traditional industry things, and there is a life that is attractive that people seek when they go and, you are the entrepreneur, you've built the contracting business, and you see cool examples all over here in Vancouver, we're a construction real estate hub for North America, right? But you see people, they go and they find good life there, right? And then all the things that you're setting up with values and modeling as a lifestyle. You said you just came back from camping and a whole bunch of people or whatever, right? But people look to that and they go, I want to work hard, because Ryan models working hard. And we'll get into it because you do coaching and professional development, and you talked about values. So there's obviously a drive component, right? Which is important. But there still is that key, there's priorities of life. And I like what you said about the kids they're adults much longer.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one, because I don't know that parents or people that are hustling or whatever realize that as much, that you're right. Like, they're going to be adults for a very long time, but the key stages of growth, like to be able to foster that mentality in your people and your company it's pretty special.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's talk about this then. So you have this whole setup. You've gone through these different inflection points, 12-year-old business, but there still is, as I said, a drive, because you're doing coaching. You want to talk about this a little bit, and the professional development and the leadership stuff, maybe, of the business?
Sure. I think everyone's, throughout their life, like they'll be like, and maybe at the time you didn't realize it, but like, oh, that person was a mentor, that person I looked up to, and, they were coaching and they didn't even realize they were coaching. I think, with so much more information nowadays, there's how important it is. And I think there's two sides of it. I think it's almost better in a way, but then in some cases not. I think people can get too busy where they don't have time to take aside to coach someone or, teach someone something. But then there's the other ones where they're cognitive of it and they're doing a good job of it. So it's almost like two sides to it. And I think I lost my train of thought now.
Yeah, no, just coaching and being intentional, I guess, about that developmental side of your people in the business.
Yeah, and I think everything's so much different now too, and everything in a way is part tech, right?
Yeah.
And it's you can be coaching people in so many different things. It could be just personal things. It could be coaching in the actual construction knowledge. It could be in technology, because people in construction usually aren't very good at technology, right? But it's becoming a very big part of it.
Yeah.
Can we, just for the listeners here, let's just take us through just your company, what you specialize in, and the exact type of projects you guys really want to do, and how many projects you got under your belt, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sounds good. The projects we do, I mean, we started in the residential world, and I didn't overly enjoy the residential world.
So single family homes or multifamily?
Single family homes, all renovation.
Gotcha, renovation. Okay.
Like everything from full gut renos. We built a few custom homes as well.
Okay.
But predominantly renovations we did. And then I was always more attracted to the commercial, light industrial world.
Yeah.
So we were doing that type of work, and I kept pushing towards that. And so then we kind of stopped doing residential, and we did purely commercial and light industrial. And then I did a few institutional projects along the way as well. And those even attracted me.
Institutional. So give us an example of.
So like schools, public facilities.
It's hard to get those, isn't it?
It takes time, and you have to be very consistent at.
Like I thought it was like a point system on that. Wasn't there some kind of point system in order to you have to have done?
Well, you
have.
Yeah, as the thing is, it's like all these things, like a high rise or something. You have to have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So that we started small in that side of it, like a small little public washroom reno, like it's a couple stalls, right? Something
Okay.
very small.
And there's your flag you can fly.
Yeah, and you kind of do a couple of those, and then you get a little bigger. It's the same as like when you start a business in general. Like you start here and you kind of keep going. And,
right.
I mean, we're at the point now on the institutional side where we're doing multi-million-dollar projects for different government institutions or universities.
Yeah.
I'd say nowadays we're doing a little more of that, which I liked. It's a little more structured, so you can think of it. Construction's not a factory, but a little more like a factory versus the private world. Can be a little bit more random sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
And we just liked it a little better, and so we still do both, but that's a lot what we do now, and all management. So we'll take the project, hire all the subs, whatever suppliers we need to work with, and then manage to put the project together.
So on any given time, typically, how many projects are you dealing with at one time? Like today, how many?
Depends on the
jobs
size. I think we have about 12 on the go right now at this moment, which we are pretty busy at this point.
That's a lot for 18 people, isn't it?
Yeah, some can be managed by one project can be managed by 2 people.
No, fair enough, depending how big it is.
Depending on how big it is, and scheduling too depends on some of the schedules that are set for these projects.
Various stages of the projects and sizing and stuff.
Cool, that's cool. It gives us some context for everyone.
Yeah. And the makeup then, so because you were saying institutional, commercial, industrial, the mix of your current projects right now, is it all in one particular segment of the market?
I would say right now they're all institutional at this exact moment. All institutional is exact moment. We have a couple of private coming up that are in design build phase right now, so they'll be coming in. But I think summer too, because a couple of them are schools and universities, and so that side tends to get a little busier with that because kids aren't in school right now. So they try to get all their renovations done while no one's there. So
that's more reliable business, I would imagine, in terms of getting paid.
Getting paid, for sure. It's I mean, there's the odd little delay, but it's just a system, right? Your invoice goes in at a certain time and it goes through their system and spits it out the other end. That is a very nice.
There's no still waiting for our last financing check.
I mean, we've had great private clients, but there can tend to be more delays and little things within the private world because it's usually could be a person, when institutional is just based on their system. Like there's no one owner saying, hang on, I want to have a meeting with this and discuss this or whatever it might be. It's goes in and comes out.
It's interesting in terms of like the business that you want to have versus the business you're doing today. I was at I met this structural engineer guy a couple of weeks ago, and he's a pretty low-key guy, super nice, and I was like, okay, so I went on his website and I looked at all the jobs he's done, all the projects. I'm like, holy smokes, like this is crazy how good this stuff is. And then there's big sort of key projects that, everyone kind of knows what they are. And then when I was talking to him, he's like, no, I just really love doing these beautiful, crazy homes, mega high-end homes. He goes, that I love doing. So it's interesting that, as you were saying, that there's these sort of different focuses on the work you have, the work that you're doing, and that the work you would love to just be doing. So is there, I looked at your website as well, and is it too risky to say that you like doing institutional stuff?
No, we really like doing institutional.
Okay. But I'm just saying, is that trough always full enough?
I would say now it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we've established ourselves a pretty good reputation. And we have master service agreements with several of our clients now where we are one of their contractors. So they they'll create a list of contractors that they want to work with on a regular basis.
Like preferred.
And those are the ones preferred, yeah. And then those are the ones that get invited to the projects.
So being a business developer, brand guy and all that kind of stuff, when I look at that opportunity, I think of the messaging around, institutional, build. It just shows that you are able to coordinate at that level and to be able to, because typically, with projects like that, you are the person that stops someone else from getting fired. And people in institutions are very risk adverse. Mm-hmm. So no one wants to lose their job because it's usually well paid and cushy and all that kind of stuff. So if Ryan is a safety lock on their career, then you got to scream that from your website, because that right there is a position and you'll only get way, way more of it.
Yeah.
And then the knock-on effect of that is on the private client side, they go, well, they do institutions, so we got one of the best ones. So the knock-on is you can choose any other project you want because of the result of you being, the appearance of you being so reliable and that you can keep getting this work that everybody knows is not easy to get.
It has been a big portion, like even just like the reputation, and when we get a private client, because maybe they've been recommended, but they don't really know us at that point. And,
right.
But if they see, they've worked with University of the Fraser Valley for the last X amount of years, obviously they're doing something right, because
there's something about institutional work. It could be the customers. They're usually going to be more well known, right? Mm-hmm. Cities, government, whatever it happens to be, schools, hospitals. But they're also really intricate, difficult projects, right? And
some of them are very,
So to be able to bring those together with excellence and then to have multiple, it speaks to like a high level of competency.
It does, yeah. Yeah, and that brand's got to like scream that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Probably don't do enough brand screaming.
It's funny, like the conversation, because we talked before, and we were just talking about like construction companies using like social and marketing, and you're kind of saying, we're really starting to elevate our game in that aspect, because for so long you do something really well based on relationship, right? And that's really, really big in construction, right? Reputation, relationship, you get on preferred trades lists, preferred contractor lists, whatever it happens to be. But to market it on social still gives anyone in construction that ability to be noticed by a new generation of buyer who's maybe hanging out there, even if they are the institutional owner or if they are the private owner, right? Yeah. They might just be out there being like, hey, you see, look at RJS is just posting all these pictures of all the schools that they're doing. This is wild. Look at this. This is really good, even though it says it on the website.
Yeah, totally.
Or even though have that relationship.
Yeah.
It's just weird in the buyer mind, right?
Well, we all grew up in an era where it didn't exist.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't come naturally for me to think about it. But there's an entire generation coming up where that's everything. It's the first place they look. And
they're getting more influential on the owner side because they are they're not teenagers anymore.
Yeah. They're getting older and older. Yeah.
Totally. I remember that, before the SiteMax days, I rebranded this Wales McClellan Construction. So they were, doing, so basically took all the brand apart, put it back together again. And just after I'd done that, the result of that was pretty good pretty quickly. There was a company called Turnbull project managers.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
And they came to me and they said, well, could you, do what you did for Wales McClellan for us? And so the point I'm getting at is that, theirs is that bull logo with the horns. And that was that strength of like, we're going to fight for your money, the aggression. And also it's just massive strength. And I think it was like strength, integrity, and something else, the regular buzzwords. But the point is that what you see out there is the sign. That Turnbull sign, I designed it, but so I'm biased. But the sign is
cool sign.
It's striking. It's striking, and the Wales signs were the same, radius corners, all that kind of stuff. So one thing I will say is that with the type of portfolio that you have and the types of projects, when you add that very, very strong identity on top of that, I guarantee you that is jet fuel. It is jet fuel on a flame, and it will make all the difference. It'll be like a $5,000 investment probably, just in terms of getting it right. But man, that would pay off. That's all I can tell you. And it would be, you'd be like, whoa, ever since we did that, everyone's just talking about us. And then the social thing is what you're saying, if you dovetail that all together.
And this is more of even a general comment, just to like contractors in general, right? Like
it is.
Just in how they're construction experts, right? And they're really, really good. You said when you first started, you didn't have to worry about the construction end of things, right? And all the business acumen comes because it runs in, it's ingrained in you, or you learn it along the way. But this is, it's almost a general statement, because so many, need to or start getting into that aspect of things from a business development standpoint.
Yeah.
But we kind of talked about the development of people, coaching thing. We'll bring it back around because there's a few things we wanted to cover specifically with regards to like talent, building in challenging times, and then that coaching, mentoring thing. But we'll do that. We'll talk about that one right now, because you're part of a group, right? It happened for some time.
Yeah, I think 7 years now.
Okay, so like early days, and this is BTA, Breakthrough Academy.
Yeah.
So we know a lot of people locally here that they're a part of it. A number of our customers, and so, but it's an interesting, tight knit community. Like as soon as you see each other at like an association event, there's just like this brotherhood almost.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great organization, and I've been part of them since they were, in their infancy years, and it's grown to be a really good networking, and not networking because that's the wrong word for me. Like I don't get business through there, but a lot of good knowledge going around other business owners or high level leaders in different organizations, and be able to get together with them and talking with them, and then the educational side of what they provide, helps so many of us contractors, because like we don't have that business knowledge, just even the little simple things.
Yeah.
In the early days of a lot of companies, or even late days, there's some companies that have joined, and they've been in business for 30 years, and oh my gosh, this is so good. All these little problems that we've now solved.
What stood out in terms of the things that you've learned that the team has been able to latch onto, in just ways that has impacted your business positively?
I think the biggest one is the podcast I did with them.
Oh yeah.
Was about taking my own organization to myself. Like, I mean, just me, not the company, but me as a leader in the company. And, especially smaller companies, like if I'm not organized, well, the business isn't organized as much as you try to organize the business side. If I'm not organized, it's just going to be a mess. And it was about being intentional first towards myself and my own organization, and then the company kind of just starts to get organized better after that. One of the big one was block scheduling. Just properly scheduling things throughout the week or month or even year, because when you run a business, you need to look at the year and next year. When before it was just kind of you're shooting from the hip a little bit every day, and there is no planning for the long term. So that was probably the biggest single item in there. I mean, there's been many, but that was definitely
And that one's
big.
stuck, and it's become like an ingrained habit. And does it permeate through the organization at all?
Through the whole company.
Oh, nice.
Any new employee, well, everyone kind of does organizational and block scheduling, and we have meetings to discuss that. But anyone new, it's kind of one of the first thing that they get coached on is being organized properly. Because we've had people come in the business, they have construction knowledge, they have this, but they're disorganized, and then things are falling through the cracks just because they're disorganized.
Right. Is that case? So there's something called like a keystone habit. It's like that one thing that you do that then just like sets up all the other ones. Would you say that's the core thing, that when you said any new employee jumps in, but that everyone is doing, and it maybe sets out a chain reaction of like other great habits or best practices that are adhered to?
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
And it eliminates so much of that. You know, everyone talks about in construction is like putting out fires all day.
Yeah,
It eliminates so much of it. I mean, it's always going to be a degree of it, but if you can eliminate half of it just by, you know, looking ahead, or, you know, risk management is kind of a lot of what it is, right?
And does it increase engagement? Like, does the staff get behind it? Do they get fired up? You do like reviews? Does it have like a cadence then of like review with the team? And
yeah, I mean, we have goal setting reviews as well, which are standard, and that becomes a big part of it. Because everyone, even some of the people that have been working with me for years, when they get really busy, they can kind of start to get off of that, and then through our meetings, our goal setting reviews, you can kind of push them back into that. Well, we're starting to get a little chaotic because you're not doing as much block scheduling and planning for the week ahead or the 2 weeks ahead. And I mean, construction and with lead times and stuff nowadays, and even labor force, like what you need to hire, you need to look so much further ahead now. Like, we need to order the HVAC stuff like so far ahead and whatnot. Like, you need to be better planned in today's construction world than before. It's not like, hey, you go order that and you got it next week. Well, now it's
especially if you're doing
8
fixed
weeks.
pricing, you gotta
and you want it early because the price might change.
For sure.
exactly.
There's so much volatility in it. Yeah, I think we talked about maybe it was a couple episodes ago. We were just talking about construction becoming more and more professional, right? And especially, again, coming out of the field, starting a business. That's the common theme with so many contractors and builders, right? But just getting more and more professional. And when you have organizations like a BTA, or just you adopt something else like a Traction, EOS, or whatever, you know, or maybe they cross over. But you just build this level of professionalism in a space that just never really even thought. It's like the social media thing. It's like, why do we need to be able to know how to do that? We're just hammering stuff together here.
Yeah.
But it really is a massive differentiator in terms of your own production, profitability, probably engagement of your staff, and probably future staff.
Yeah. A huge stress elimination by getting more professional. I think I haven't traveled the world a lot, but like you hear from a lot of people that have spent a lot of time. A friend of mine worked in Japan for quite a number of years in construction, and he said North America is pretty far behind in their professional construction level, but it is getting a lot better, and it's so much nicer for everyone. Clients, staff, business owners, suppliers, like just everybody in general.
No, totally. It's a theme we see because you were in Tokyo a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing when you came back. It's like they just look different.
What's interesting though is the anecdotes I got from people who talked to me about how construction is in Tokyo. It was, yes, very organized, but still hasn't innovated much. Just because you have to take risks to innovate, and they don't want to take any because it has to be dialed. Yeah. There's like LED screens on, and the hoarding all has to be the same color, all white, can't have anything on it. And there's like a graphics on these things. It's all in Japanese, obviously, but there's like a sort of a vector of this guy with a hard hat on. And he's like, stop, do this next, move this way. And it's very weird. I mean, but yeah, we do have a long way to go in terms of being that organized. I mean, you look at most sites; they kind of look like ratty. Yeah. I mean, like some of the bad ones look like a homeless encampment. Honestly,
Yeah.
it can look really like. The only thing is like, oh, is that a construction site?
says a
Well,
lot
there's a
about-
porta potty there, so yeah, I guess it must be.
Yeah, it says a lot about even the builder. Like this is as much as a sign on your job site.
It is.
right.
That-
Is what does your site look like?
Yeah, how organized is it?
Yeah, and when you exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
This speaks to a lot about what you're going to be capable of and how you treat a customer in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, mess is a pretty big problem, and I think a lot of constructions, there's a lot of materials around, right? Especially in renovations, demo and whatnot. But I think the big one you hear is schedule, and some things are out of our control, but schedule can get out of hand pretty bad. Where you hear from people like, oh, they said it would be 6 months, and a year later we're just wrapping up type thing.
Yeah.
But if you have more consciousness, not to beat this one like crazy, but the blocking, the scheduling, if you have more consciousness across more people that are in charge of that project, you close gaps and you miss risks and all that kind of stuff. You mitigate risks,
Yeah.
right? Across the board when you have more people, as opposed to, my super or my project manager's dialed in and my super's got a decent idea of what's happening, but that's it.
Yeah.
Right. But when
Yeah.
you have more people, it's like, that's where you really get those great efficiencies and innovations.
Yeah, the entire team. Because in
team.
construction, there's, you take RJS 1, there's that team, but there's sub-trades and suppliers and consultants and even the client. Everybody's part of the same team.
Yeah.
All right. The other thing we wanted to say, because I think we talked about this even coming into the conversation, was so building in challenging times. And when we said that right off the hop, you immediately were talking about just things like population numbers, things like immigration and housing shortages and labor shortages and all that kind of stuff. Well, we're here in Canada. Canada just, and this isn't going to sound insane to other places, but for us, I mean, it seems like we got here fast, but we just crossed 40 million. It feels like we were at 30 not too long ago.
That 10's coming quickly.
Like that 10 did come kind of quickly, and there's various reasons for that. But in terms of, there's so much packed and loaded, and we can probably just unpack this one as our final thing here. But challenging times, building in them, whether it's financial issues, whether it's labor issues, or just the influx of people into this business and being able to get the work done and finish those projects. What are some of the things that you're facing right now as a business in terms of your project load, employees, labor, subcontractors, et cetera?
I think there's many. I think the number one, because it's kind of the start of the project, which is massively, I think, causing huge delays, is the whole red tape side, like, approval of drawings and getting permits done and whatnot. I mean, we're at record inflation, immigration. A 500,000 people come here. Well, half people need homes.
Yep.
How long does it take to catch up to build houses for those? Well, here it takes years to even get projects off the ground.
Yeah, big lag.
Huge lag. And so as more and more keep coming, and I think it's like, okay, we're going to build more. That's fine. It's great for the construction industry, but it's so far behind constantly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, the first big challenge is there, and which starts on the government side, but the consultant side is, I mean, that process is much slower as well, which in some ways we're building better, safer homes and more efficient. But there is a much longer lead time to get all these done, and especially for them because they're having the same human capital shortage as well on their side. How many people are retiring and then how many more coming in while they're training up. But, to create drawings, someone that has 40 years experience producing drawings, someone that is brand new is not going to produce drawings to the same speed and quality as someone else with longer experience.
Did I mention AI?
Yeah.
That should help.
For sure.
It just does seem like there's so many factors that are working against the element of speed when it comes to just the problem of a shortage, right? If that's the single problem of we have a housing or we don't have enough homes to deal with the influx of people, okay, well, that's the problem. That's the issue. Well, you can either slow that down. That's another conversation altogether, not construction related necessarily. But if that is the issue, then from a construction standpoint, this is stuff that has just been ongoing for years and years and years. Like I haven't been a PM for 6-7 years, and permitting and slowdowns and all that kind of stuff was massive then. And it just seems like something that, I mean, again, haven't been in it, but in the last decade, has it improved? Has it become more efficient? It's just, I think it's just slowly trundling backwards.
And more of the same, yeah.
Or more of the same.
What's your perspective around, so with you can call it the housing crisis or the housing instability or the lack of people being able to get into it, what are your thoughts around the overall happiness of your subtrades people? Do you think that affects their psyche at all about being happy at their job and all that kind of stuff? Like, what's the sort of sentiment there? What are your thoughts when you see that fly on the wall? You're able to kind of assess what that's like.
I think overall, coming out of COVID and everything everyone's had to do, I think happiness is probably maybe a little lower than it definitely could be. I mean, think of anyone when you're kind of working behind to try to catch up constantly.
Yeah.
There's a level of stress there,
frustration
all the time, and that's big time in the construction world. I mean, you know, we're working on a project that's already been going it started, the planning and the permits, it's already started for a while. So I get that when owners or clients, when they want to get started and get going and they're pushing everyone super hard, but there's a complete level of stress there to the people actually doing the work.
So you have to inoculate those people from that stress to some degree, right?
You try.
You're the barrier.
You try, yeah.
Which is difficult.
It's very difficult. And then, you know, you throw in whole supply chain things where maybe it's the electrician needs to do certain work on his site, and then it's another trade that's doing something and they can't get the materials in time to get it ready for the electrician. And then so he's delayed, and they were planning to put 10 people on this job for the next month, and now they're shuffling their schedule and putting them on another job, and then back and forth and there's a lot of efficiency there lost. But a lot of you said, like, it's up here too, right? When people get juggled around, and then when they get there, it's like, go, you're behind. And it's like, what do you mean I'm behind? I just showed up here. It's the first day.
So do you feel like if you were to imagine the pressure you're under sometimes, do you feel like you're the guy holding back the landslide and your sub-trades employees are like, yeah, I kind of like this cherry picking off the tree in an orchard? Is it you're like, guys, like, look what I'm holding back here. I'm trying to, allow you guys to enjoy your fruit and you're picking your cherries here, but hello.
For sure.
But you can't really talk about that, right? Because that's what they signed up for. They're like, well, I like to have some nice fruit here. And you're like, yeah. Let's go.
I think, yeah. I mean, sometimes I don't want to hear it, but it's real. It's there. I don't know what the short-term answer for it is, but I think it more goes back to the planning and the communication between
and those values too, though, right? Because you push those values through on a job site. This is how we're going to conduct this job site.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, we're going to say it for the billionth time. This business is showing up at a business to do business. Each sub-trade has its own culture too, because if they're any good at what they're doing, they've already gone through, Pro D stuff. They kind of know what they are as a company. So they have their values show up at a job, and then your values of how we're going to conduct this job. Do you ever see any conflict there in terms of how?
Oh, for sure. We've talked about it lots in our company, but I mean, stakeholders that are working with us over the years, the ones that aren't meeting the values, we typically part ways. I mean, that's everyone. Government, you can't get away from them. I mean, you still got to go through their process. But, clients, sub-trades, suppliers, even consultants, that are, not fitting the value system because
they're insultants?
Insultants, yeah. I mean, everybody wants to work with people that want to work together and have proper values and get things done. I mean, it's less stressful. I mean, the world's stressful enough. We don't need more of it every day to go home with.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is all these challenges, challenging times, challenging economics, all these shortages of things, it impacts everybody. And when you're a general and you've got, I was reading last week, Dave was like, they were saying an average of 100 different contractors, vendors, whatever, in a typical project. when you think about that,
Yeah.
they deal with all their own internal and external factors
A lot of attitudes.
that could be slowing them down. Attitudes,
Positive
things,
or negative.
yeah, things that are going on. And so, like, yeah, you are holding back that wave and trying to create an environment that everybody comes into that's consistent and sort of influence all the people that are coming in not so consistently to bring it all together. And it's challenging. It's difficult.
Good on you. Good on you, because it's not easy.
It's great, and it's challenging as well, for sure. There's a lot of, I don't think most people understand how many moving pieces are within a construction project.
Yeah, I think our listeners do.
I think so.
Well,
yeah.
Most of them do, for sure.
Yeah.
No,
But
the average person driving by looking at that,
Yeah.
I'm sure it happens all the time, because I get non-construction friends like, why is that project taking so long? It's like, oh, I don't know where to start. I mean,
yeah.
permitting is usually a good one. But yeah, no, this is obviously, having done what you've done for 12 years. I mean, you've made it past so many different points, had, the learning from failures, seeing the success, but to where you are right now, you've obviously done a really great job of navigating challenges, and it's just it's just the next level, dealing with whatever we're going through in the next couple of years. But is there anything you want to leave our guests with, our audience with, or anyone even at your company that's going to listen to this? Just anything about the industry, yourself, the company?
No, you didn't say nugget. I like that.
Oh, yeah, just a little nugget.
Oh,
Just a little nugget. Leave our audience with.
the nugs.
A big one I thought about when I was driving here is like something that's been a big, I guess part of the success is, you brought up AI, is, I mean, the level of speed that technology is moving at and changing constantly, and everyone trying to keep up, has a massive stress to itself. And I've said it before, like, this cell phone here it's a great tool, but it can be a great stress as well. And I think technology used incorrectly can be a huge negative. And I've tried to, like, pick technology that works, but don't let it consume you. It's been a big one. I think a big one in our company as well.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I mean, it can be overwhelming. Everything, if you're building a business and all these different factors, everything that's going on, it can be very overwhelming. But there's a few things you can really hone in on to navigate the challenging times and bring it all together.
Yeah.
And I think, like, slow down a little bit. The world's moving faster.
Yeah.
It's moving faster and faster, but slower and slower. It's kind of a weird thing, but, like, slowing down a little bit and having a proper balance in life is so important.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, Ryan, we always end our conversations with our guests with a little rapid fire round. I know you probably saw the questions. Hopefully you didn't have too much time to think, because it's always good off the cuff, but we're going to rip through a few of them. Does that sound cool?
Sure.
All right. So, Ryan, I know you thought this word was funny, but what is something that you do that others might think is insane?
I think the amount of hours I work, because I've got a lot of people as still technically a young company. I work as least hours as possible. And I think that goes to the organizational and that intentional block scheduling. And what Jocko Willink said, like, decentralized command, like, allowing your all the people you work with to do their side and manage their side. There's a huge efficiency lost in micromanaging people and getting them to explain everything. And meetings. I think there's too many meetings nowadays. Like, to have a meeting to discuss another meeting.
Right.
And that's why I said the word insane was like, insane. I don't know. Something I think is insane. But
Jocko would love that.
Yeah.
He'd be all over that. I love that. Decentralized command.
Yeah. And like I said, construction, it's very common for people to work a lot of hours.
Yeah.
And I have just found over the years and learning from seeing other people work in other companies, and I think it can also be a huge detriment, because you're working lots of hours, but how efficient are you being with your hours?
Totally.
Because I don't work a lot of hours, which a lot of people find weird as a owner of a general contracting company.
How many hours?
30-ish.
Oh, there you go. All right. What would you be doing if you weren't building RJS, if you weren't building this awesome general contracting company? Ryan, what would you be doing? Non-construction related.
Non-construction related. I was thinking long and hard about this one. I mean, the first one I went to, I know I looked at the question.
No, yeah, that's totally fine.
I love the outdoors. So like I thought, I'd be in the outdoors, but I was thinking that's more recreational thing. So was the question meant more like career wise or
passion wise? Probably, I would say. What else would you?
Yeah, well, what would you be doing?
It's like Ryan could have done this, but he's not doing that. What is that?
It's a weird, it's an interesting question, and it's one we used from the beginning, and maybe we need to add a little element to it. But it is, it's another piece of the brain. It's something else that's passion. If you were to build, obviously, if you're an entrepreneurial, it's building a business, but maybe it's in something totally different, right?
Yeah, I think then, like I said, I love the outdoors, and I've actually, as I get older, I've almost thought of, like you talk about teaching and coaching, is I enjoy like giving knowledge that I've learned along the way, even though not everyone listens to everything, but if they took just a little portion of it. And with the outdoors, I kind of have this long time dream of, maybe having a giant piece of property in the bush somewhere and, teaching kids about maybe not just nature, but different aspects of how to navigate life and whatnot.
Yep.
Kind of call it outside the academic school, but it's part of a young person's journey to getting older.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've always
should do that.
That's a solid answer.
And
solid answer.
Got more and more as I get older, for sure.
RJS.
Well, there you go. Now it's on. Now it's on record.
It is.
Someone will hold you to account on that one. That's great. That's a great answer. Okay, last one. What is the most memorable story that you have from the job site?
This one was hard. There's so many. Some of them are scary moments on construction. It's a dangerous world. The first one that popped in my head, which WorkSafe wouldn't like it, but
usually that's how these stories go.
We were working for BC Ferries early on and getting into the institutional side, and project was going great until the last piece that we had to put it was we did all the new sign bridges as you're going out to the Tsawwassen ferry terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we were working with a crane company. Maybe I shouldn't mention their name, but they had been out to site. They had sized their crane. They had done all their stuff beforehand, and there was the big section that had to come off before the new one go on, and it was all being done at nighttime, and it was supposed to be a single lift, and everything put onto the ground and then cut up because the old one was going to be demolished.
Yeah.
Well, the crane that was there was undersized, unbeknownst to us, and it couldn't pick this thing up once everything was cut off and disconnected.
Oh no.
And long story short, we kind of MacGyvered it and got it off. And then as it was being lowered to the ground, the chains on the crane broke and the whole thing
smashed to the ground.
Fell to the ground.
Wow.
Did it demolish itself?
No, it stayed together. But now at this point, all the ferry staff was starting to show up for the first morning
And
sailing.
no one could go
and
through.
we're blocking traffic.
Oh, lovely.
Trying to cut this thing because it was supposed to be down already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it all worked out in the end, but that was a pretty memorable moment.
Oof.
Exactly.
Talked
Imagine
about
seeing
many
the
times in
sign,
the
10
company.
sailing weights. What?
It's
So with anything like that's planning, right? Like anything with craneage and whatnot, anything that's like high risk like that, we learned from that and taking it to the next step. It's like asking a lot more questions and ensuring that things are planned properly from the get-go.
Oh yeah, and in one variation or another, that's a good story. I'm sure a lot of people's very memorable will be ones that caused major disruption. And so much in construction is related to, we got to do a little temporary shutdown here or this, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh boy, disruption for the day, Yeah. It's very
Craneage
possible.
carnage.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Ryan, it was a long time coming. It was great to have you on to share your story with us and with our audience. And we look forward to continuing to get updates from you as the journey continues at RJS. But really appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks for having me on. It was
Thank you.
great.
Right on. All right. Well, we got video as promised. If you love this episode and you're in construction or you know someone who is, be sure to share each of the site visit episodes, smash that like button, subscribe, and tune in to all of our episodes, which will be broadcast right here on our channel. We'll see you next time.